Welcome to Let's Brew Good Coffee episode 2. In this episode, we are looking at some beans that originate from Rwanda, roasted by the Library Specialty Coffee located in Toronto. We will be brewing with the AeroPress, a versatile device that can tackle a lot of situations. If you want to learn more about the AeroPress, check out this in-depth brewing guide that I've made. Link found down below. We begin our first cup of coffee with a recipe of a 1:16 brewing ratio, which is 15 grams of coffee leading to 240 grams of water. We use a boiling temperature, which is 100 degrees Celsius, and we use a grind size of 33. Our brew time is 3 minutes. So after using these variables, we got a cup that was just slightly under extracted. It was pretty close to balance, but it was just a tad under extracted. And it was a pretty decent cup. However, I felt like we could do better than this. So when it is a balanced cup and you need to mix up the recipe, you change two variables in opposite directions. So for the next cup number 2, I decided to change the water temperature going down to 90 degrees Celsius, which lowers extraction, and I compensate that with a higher brewing time from 3 minutes to 4 minutes to increase extraction. Brewing cup number 2 with these new variables, we got a cup that had a lingering mouthfeel and interesting acidities. However, this cup was slightly under extracted. I actually liked the acidities a bit, but I knew that some of the acidities were for sure from the under extracted element in the cup. Since that was the case, I decided to do a change in the recipe by increasing the brew ratio from 1:16 to 1:17 to increase extraction. And that means that I'm now brewing with 255 grams of water instead of 240 grams. Brewing cup number 3, we actually get the best cup we've had so far. This cup over here was nice and silky, balanced, and was really delicious. So after 3 cups into the bag, we have already locked in a delicious recipe. And this is the one. So if we ever do some exploration, which we will, we can always come back to this specific brewing recipe and brew a really good cup of coffee if we feel like we've strayed too far away from the sun over here. Since I love exploration, I decided to fully mix up the cup again. So I changed the variables to a 1:18 brewing ratio, which leads to 270 grams of water, and this increases extraction. I also increased the water temperature to boiling, which also increases extraction. But to compensate for those two increases in extraction, I decided to increase the grind size, making it coarser by quite a large amount. So I go from 33 grind size to 37 grind size. Drinking cup number 4, it was pretty mediocre and probably one of the worst cups I've had so far, which is totally okay. That happens when you do a lot of exploration. So the taste was pretty bad, but what was the extraction level like? Well, it was slightly over extracted. However, I'm not going to tweak this recipe and try to get it balanced because I feel like it just needs a slight tweak to become balanced, and overall the cup won't change that much if it becomes balanced at this subpar taste level. So I decided to make a big change to the recipe again. I revert back to the 1:17 brewing ratio, which means 255 grams of water, and I changed the brew time to 3 minutes. Now this cup was also slightly over extracted, but led to a pretty decent cup. But it wasn't like amazing or anything, it was just balanced and a solid cup of coffee. Kinda boring, I would drink it, but sadly enough, not as good as the 3rd cup we brewed. So we know that we can do some changes here. Now, the next thing that I tried to compensate for that over-extractedness was to change my brew time. I decreased my brew time from 3 minutes to 2 minutes. Now, this cup over here was so-so, like it was balanced, but it wasn't as good as I had hoped for. So overall, we had gotten to a cup that was so-so. What I decided to do next was to do a big change again to try to get a different cup of coffee. So on this brew, I did a 1:15 brewing ratio, which means 15 grams of coffee and 225 grams of water. And then I use a 35 grind setting with a 3-minute brew time. By really mixing up the recipe, I'm hoping to make some big changes to the cup, but sadly enough, this one was really over-extracted and mediocre at best. To change the extraction on this recipe, I changed my water temperature from boiling to 85 degrees Celsius instead to lower extraction. This cup over here was slightly under-extracted, but also was pretty good tasting. I liked the acidities in there, even though a lot of it was from the under-extracted element. I did feel like a lot of the acidities were delicious acidities woven in there too. So the taste was pretty high up there for me. In the next cup, I decided to try something similar and move two variables in opposite directions. So I take the water temperature to boiling to increase extraction, and then I decrease the brew time to 2 minutes instead of 3 minutes to decrease extraction. Now this cup was balanced, but the cup was not that great. And that is okay. So we have now brewed a lot of different cups, and what I decide now to do with the end of the bag is to go back to recipe number 3 and finish off the bag. So in the end of it all, the cup that I brewed on day 3 was the best cup of coffee with this bag of beans over here. And that recipe was a 1:17 brewing ratio with 15 grams of coffee, 255 grams of water, 90 degrees Celsius water, a 33 grind size with a brew time of 4 minutes. And that was it for that bag of coffee. If you want to check out the individual live stream brews, check out the live stream archive that you can find right over here or in the description below. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.